Father Miguel sat alone in his dimly lit office, the faint hum of the monitors filling the silence around him. Ever since a string of burglaries had shaken the parish, he had made it his nightly ritual to review footage from newly installed hidden cameras, hoping to spot anything suspicious. Night after night, the screens showed nothing but empty hallways, shifting shadows, and the occasional flicker of a faulty light. Tonight seemed no different until it wasn't. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared on the screen, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Miguel's breath caught as he recognized the man. The cardinal moved with an air of caution, seemingly unaware of the camera's presence. What he did next would leave Miguel questioning everything. The events leading to this moment had begun 2 weeks earlier. The parish had been a hive of activity, buzzing with anticipation for the arrival of Cardinal Tagle. News of his visit spread quickly through the town, and the community rallied to prepare for the occasion. Families arrived at the church hours early, filling the pews and spilling into the courtyard, eager to see the man whose reputation for compassion, humility, and unwavering dedication to the faith had made him beloved far beyond the church walls. Father Miguel, standing by the main entrance, adjusted his collar nervously. Though he had met Cardinal Tagle before, the weight of this visit felt different. The cardinal's presence carried an aura that inspired both reverence and awe. As a sleek black car rolled into the gravel driveway, Miguel stepped forward, his palms clammy despite the crisp evening breeze. When the cardinal stepped out of the car, his warm smile and slight bow immediately put those gathered at ease. "Your Eminence," Miguel greeted, bowing deeply. Tagle's demeanor was gracious and serene, his very presence seeming to lift the spirits of the parishioners. In a community weighed down by recent troubles, his arrival felt like a balm, renewing a sense of hope and unity among the people. Inside the church, the cardinal moved through the crowd with ease, shaking hands, offering blessings, and engaging each person with genuine interest. Miguel observed from a distance, marveling at the man's charisma and humility. Despite his high rank within the church, Tagle carried himself with the modesty of a simple servant. Yet, amidst the warmth and reverence of the evening, Miguel noticed something peculiar. Clara, the church housekeeper, stood in the shadows near the sacristy. Usually quiet and composed, she seemed unusually tense, her hands tightly clasped together. Her gaze flickered repeatedly toward the cardinal, as if she were waiting for the right moment to act. When Tagle finally approached her, Clara stepped forward and whispered something to him. Miguel couldn't hear what she said, but he saw the cardinal nod in acknowledgement. His expression remained calm and unreadable. Without another word, Clara turned and left the room, her pale face betraying an emotion Miguel couldn't quite identify. The brief interaction unsettled Miguel. Clara's unusual behavior, especially in the presence of someone as revered as Cardinal Tagle, gnawed at his thoughts. Though he tried to brush it off as nervousness from the day's significance, a nagging sense of unease lingered. Later that night, as Miguel prepared for bed, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Groggy and disoriented, he reached for it. The caller ID displayed the name of the security company overseeing the church's cameras. His stomach sank. After weeks of uneventful monitoring, a late-night call could only mean trouble. "Father Miguel, we detected unusual activity on the church premises," the operator said. "You may want to review the footage from camera 3 near the east corridor." Miguel's heart raced as he dressed quickly and made his way to the small office housing the security monitors. The church was eerily quiet, its darkened corridors illuminated only by the faint glow of moonlight streaming through stained glass windows. Seated before the monitors, Miguel navigated to the footage in question. At first, the screen showed nothing out of the ordinary. Empty hallways, locked doors, and the stillness of the late hour. But as the timestamp crept past 11 p.m., a figure emerged from the shadows. Miguel's breath hitched. It was Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. The cardinal moved with purpose, his steps deliberate yet cautious. He paused occasionally to glance over his shoulder, scanning his surroundings as if ensuring he was alone. Miguel leaned closer to the screen, his pulse quickening. What could the cardinal be doing at such an hour? The footage grew more troubling. The cardinal approached Clara's quarters, his movements measured and intentional. He paused outside her door, his hand hovering over the doorknob. Again, he glanced down the hallway, his wary eyes betraying an unusual tension. Satisfied he was unobserved, he turned the knob and slipped into the room. Miguel froze, his mind racing to process what he had just seen. The sight of such a respected figure moving so covertly sent a wave of doubt and confusion crashing over him. His initial instinct was to dismiss it. Surely there was an innocent explanation. But the secrecy, the glances over his shoulder, and the late hour all painted a troubling picture. Miguel replayed the footage, scrutinizing every detail. The cardinal's behavior seemed calculated, almost methodical, as if he were carrying out a carefully planned act. Miguel's chest tightened. What could he be doing in Clara's room? He murmured aloud. Dark possibilities began to creep into his thoughts, clinging stubbornly despite his efforts to push them away. The weight of what he had seen, and the implications it carried, gnawed at him, leaving him with more questions than answers. As the hours ticked by, Miguel's unease deepened, the flickering glow of the monitors casting shadows of doubt across his troubled mind. Father Miguel switched off the footage and leaned back in his chair, pressing his fingers against his temples as he tried to make sense of what he had just witnessed. The dim glow of the monitor lingered in the corner of his eye, but the troubling images of Cardinal Tagle's secretive actions burned brighter in his mind. Miguel resolved to tread carefully, deciding to gather more information before making any decisions. Yet, deep within him, a gnawing unease remained. It was a feeling he couldn't shake, a quiet warning that what he had seen was the beginning of something far more complex than he could yet understand. As Miguel stepped out of the office, the quiet corridors of the church felt eerily oppressive. The darkness seemed deeper, the silence heavier, as if the very walls bore the weight of the secrets they contained. Shadows stretched long across the stone floors, and the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the stained glass windows offered little comfort. Miguel's footsteps echoed faintly as he made his way back to his quarters, his mind racing with questions. Could he be misinterpreting what he had seen? Or was he on the brink of uncovering something that might shatter the delicate trust within the church? Morning arrived, but the warmth of the sun did little to dispel the cold tension that had settled over the parish. The usual hum of early prayers and greetings was replaced by hushed whispers and furtive glances. Somehow, despite Miguel's hopes to contain the matter, word of the cardinal's nocturnal movements had seeped into the congregation's gossip. I heard he was seen near Clara's quarters, one woman murmured to another as they stood near the courtyard. Surely it's nothing, came the reply, though her tone carried more doubt than conviction. Cardinal Tagle is a man of God. There must be an explanation, but not everyone was so quick to defend him. A man is a man, a gruff voice interjected from nearby. Clergy or not, secrecy at that hour raises questions. Miguel passed through the crowd, overhearing snippets of conversation that only added to his growing burden. Each comment felt like another stone pressing down on his shoulders, a weight that made it harder to maintain his composure. He had hoped that the incident would remain confined to the security footage, but now it had taken root in the collective consciousness of the parish. What had started as a quiet unease was quickly spiraling into something uncontrollable. In the midst of the tension, Miguel's thoughts turned to Clara. Always a reserved and quiet figure, Clara now seemed almost ghost-like. She avoided eye contact, kept to herself, and declined to join the other nuns in their morning prayers. Her shoulders were hunched, her steps hesitant, and her gaze fixed downward, as though she carried a burden far too heavy for one person to bear. Miguel watched her from a distance, noting her growing isolation and wondering if her behavior was tied to the cardinal's visits, or if his own mind was drawing connections where none existed. That evening, Miguel found himself back in the small office, seated before the glow of the monitor. His hands trembled slightly as he replayed the footage from the previous nights. Frame by frame, the same unsettling pattern emerged. Cardinal Tagle, a man revered for his humility and devotion, leaving his quarters late at night, walking purposefully through the church corridors, and pausing briefly before entering Clara's room. Each visit lasted over an hour, sometimes two, before the cardinal returned to his quarters. One particular frame made Miguel's breath catch, the cardinal beckoning Clara toward him. Her posture was tense as she approached, and Miguel noted the way her shoulders hunched as if shielding herself from unseen eyes. When she finally left the room, her eyes were rimmed with red, as though she had been crying. Miguel sat frozen, his thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and dread. This was no isolated incident. The consistency of the cardinal's actions suggested intent, and the secrecy surrounding them cast a long shadow of suspicion. Yet Miguel clung to the hope that there might be an innocent explanation, though each passing moment made it harder to believe. Hours slipped by as Miguel wrestled with his conscience. To confront Cardinal Tagle would mean risking everything: his position, his reputation, and potentially the stability of the church itself. But to remain silent felt equally wrong. How could he, as a man of faith, turn a blind eye to something so troubling? His deliberations were interrupted by the buzz of his phone on the desk. The caller ID displayed the security company's name, sending a chill through his chest. "Father Miguel," the operator said, their voice steady but laced with concern. "We've reviewed additional footage and noticed a recurring pattern of activity. Given the circumstances, we feel obligated to inform you that this behavior is highly irregular. It may warrant further action." Miguel thanked the caller and hung up, the weight of their words pressing heavily on him. If even the security company had flagged the cardinal's behavior, how much longer could he delay? Turning back to the monitor, Miguel stared at the frozen image of Cardinal Tagle standing outside Clara's door. The cardinal's face was calm, but the secrecy of his movements betrayed an unsettling purpose. As dawn approached, Miguel made his decision. He couldn't ignore what he had seen any longer. Though the confrontation would be fraught with risk, the truth had to be uncovered. Miguel resolved to approach the cardinal with respect and care, but his resolve was tinged with the fear of what he might uncover. An hour later, Miguel stood outside Cardinal Tagle's quarters, his heart pounding so loudly he feared it might echo through the silent hallway. His rosary was clutched tightly in one hand, the small gesture offering him a semblance of courage. With a deep breath, he knocked lightly on the door. It opened almost immediately, and there stood Cardinal Tagle, his calm and composed demeanor unchanged, as if he had been expecting this moment all along. Cardinal Tagle stood before Father Miguel, his face calm and inviting, exuding the warmth that had made him beloved by so many. "Father Miguel," he said, his tone kind and measured, "what brings you here at this hour?" Miguel's throat felt dry as he swallowed hard, willing himself to speak despite the storm of emotions churning within him. Stepping into the modest room, he noted the simplicity of its furnishings, a reflection of the cardinal's well-known humility. Yet Miguel's eyes did not linger on the surroundings. All his attention was focused on the man before him, the man whose actions had planted seeds of doubt in his heart. "Your Eminence," Miguel began, his voice trembling slightly, "there's something I must address with you, though it pains me to do so." Tagle gestured for Miguel to sit, his serene expression unbroken. "Please, speak freely," he urged, his tone gentle but unwavering. Miguel hesitated, his words caught in the tangled web of his thoughts. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to continue. "Over the past several nights, I've observed activity on the security footage. You've been visiting Clara's quarters late at night. The secrecy, the timing, it has raised questions that I can no longer ignore." For a moment, the room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of Miguel's words hanging in the air. Miguel braced himself for the cardinal's reaction, expecting defensiveness or even anger. But to his surprise, the cardinal's expression softened. There was no sign of indignation or offense, only a quiet understanding that seemed to reach out and steady Miguel's racing heart. "Sister Clara has been struggling with severe depression," Tagle said gently, folding his hands as he spoke. "She approached me privately during my first day here, seeking guidance and solace. She feels isolated, burdened by guilt she cannot shake, and overwhelmed by the expectations placed upon her." Miguel blinked, stunned into silence. The cardinal's words cast an entirely new light on the situation. Memories of Clara's pale face, her hunched posture, and the way she had withdrawn from the other nuns replayed in his mind, now imbued with a deeper understanding. The late-night meetings, Tagle continued, his voice calm but tinged with empathy, were her request. She felt safer speaking under the cover of darkness, away from prying eyes and the inevitable questions that might follow. I agreed to meet her at those times, not to hide anything, but to protect her privacy and dignity. She feared how others might perceive her struggles, and I wanted to honor her trust. Miguel felt the weight of his own assumptions crashing down around him. He had doubted the integrity of a man so revered, allowing his own fears and the parishioners' whispers to cloud his judgment. "I understand your concern, Father Miguel," the cardinal said, his voice steady and kind. "But sometimes, as servants of the Church, our roles demand discretion. My only intention was to provide Sister Clara with the solace and spiritual counsel she so desperately needs." Relief flooded Miguel's heart, mingled with a profound sense of guilt. He lowered his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am sorry, Your Eminence. I allowed doubt and fear to blind me to the truth." Tagle placed a hand on Miguel's shoulder, his touch both reassuring and grounding. "We are all human, Father Miguel," he said, his tone filled with wisdom and compassion. "Even in our faith, fear can creep in. What matters is that we act with humility and seek the truth, as you have done tonight." As Miguel left the cardinal's quarters, a sense of peace began to settle over him, though it was tempered by the realization of how easily appearances could mislead. He resolved to carry this lesson forward, to temper his judgments with understanding and to approach future challenges with both caution and compassion. Later that afternoon, as the church bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, Clara approached Miguel in the quiet stillness of the chapel. Her steps were hesitant, her voice soft and almost trembling as she spoke. "Thank you, Father, for understanding and for keeping my struggles private," she whispered, her words heavy with the weight of relief. Miguel nodded, his heart heavy with humility. "You're not alone, Clara," he said gently. "We are here for you." Walking away, Miguel reflected on the delicate balance between trust and doubt, and the profound consequences of allowing fear to guide one's actions. He vowed to face future trials with an open heart, knowing that mistrust, even when unspoken, could exact a heavy toll. Have you ever made an assumption, expecting the worst only to be proven wrong? Share your experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, may we all strive to approach life with a little more caution, compassion, and understanding. See you in the next video.